I think the early adopters of Bitcoin actually are undervaluing Bitcoin. Bitcoin is finite, therefore you get the value of infinite. I have something finite, but I have infinite demand for something that's finite. No one's ever seen finite. No one.
Yeah.
It's not competing with anything. Hey, look, there's 2,516 billionaires. There's 406,000 ultra wealthy. The millionaires will be lucky to get any of this. These billionaires, dude, their first entries are going to be 10, 100, 200 Bitcoin at a time. Hey, Mr. Wealthy Guy, tell me something that's finite. My boat that I paid $30 million for. Awesome, dude, but there's only one of them and nobody's going to make a currency of it. Yeah. Show me something else that's finite. By the way, I can replicate that boat. Like a super athlete at 16 years old, what does a super athlete do? As long as it is fed high protein food, some fats, goes on exercises, works its way into the market, it becomes more competitive, more of a champion, more anti-fragile. It wins more.
This continuous monetization of Bitcoin, how will that affect the valuation of other store of value assets?
It's not a zero-sum game, right? Like, what if we're just maxed out on real estate, Rolex watches, villas? What if consumption has hit peak? I don't need 37 vehicles. I don't need 42 housekeepers. I don't need more villas and more airplanes and more helicopters. I need some Bitcoin because I got all that other shit. All this money coming in from the outside, it is now merely a question of when they come in. It isn't about what price they come in at. They don't care about the price. This is the difference between the first 15 years of Bitcoin and the next.
Hey there, I want to ask you for a quick favor. Over the past few months, I've had over 50,000 returning viewers and listeners to this podcast, but over 65% of you haven't subscribed yet. So if you enjoy what I'm doing and you find my content valuable, please subscribe on YouTube or follow me on your favorite podcasting platform. This will help me fuel the algorithm and spread the message on Bitcoin even further. I really appreciate your support. Now let's dive into this episode. All right, Gary Cardone, welcome back to Bitcoin for Millennials.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Good to be here, buddy. And happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. You too. I appreciate you coming back on. Last time we had a lovely conversation. So for anyone who wants to check that out, just go back to my list and look for Gary's face with the nice Bitcoin hat on the thumbnail. I was just thinking, let's just start and kind of check in to see where we're at. I mean, yesterday we saw rate cuts announced by the Fed. Jerome Powell was asked about the possibility to buy Bitcoin and he said no, which is the answer because the Fed would never own Bitcoin and it's part of the treasury, but that's kind of going viral online. People dismissing the whole strategic Bitcoin reserve that I also want to talk about with you. But it seems like Bitcoin is talked and asked about at the highest levels. And I just wanted to start with your current view on where we are at right now with Bitcoin.
Well, market went up to 108 and we have now, a 6% retracement and people are freaking out in the little echo chamber. I don't think people are freaking out across the world, but in the little echo chamber that is Bitcoin, Twitter, kind of the universe that you and I may frequent, seems to be more emotionally driven, right? But look, Saylor bought how many billions this week? You have Riot has put on another $500 million, I think. Hut put on $100 million, all under the MicroStrategy kind of transaction phenomena that's occurring, which to me makes total sense. What are we learning from this financial engineering program that Wall Street is enjoying through the Bitcoin mining, synthetic or real? What we're finding is that what you and I first came into Bitcoin about is playing out, but no one's talking about it. Bitcoin is on the world stage. It has already achieved that its collateral is going to be priced cheaper than money. Meaning, the real interest rate for me to borrow money today is really somewhere between 9 and 15%. It is utter bullshit that you can borrow at 4% or in Germany, 2.5%. Okay, it's just not real. The real rate on on the street is somewhere between 8 and 12. 4 weeks ago, before I brought my brother to Sailor's house, I was like, hey, do you see what's happening here, son? You have Bitcoin miners receiving money at zero cost of capital from Citibank. Now, Citibank's also loaned out. I'm just picking Citibank for a big name, right? Citibank, they have been active, by the way. Citibank has probably 8% debt out there. They probably got some 6%. They got 7%. And it's all in various areas. It could be in automobiles, homes, housing. When Wall Street takes a product like Bitcoin, they start offering zero. Well, like, can anyone wake up?
Yeah.
They're saying this collateral and the opportunity, they want a piece of it and they're willing to do it at zero. They must be getting something from it, right? And what they're getting on the back end is volatility that most people don't fully understand. It's stunning to me that people are freaking out because MicroStrategy is at 349. It went to 450. It's very simple. He sells stock in the market, the price goes down, and then he very, very smartly, using an algo that he's been using for 3 years, buys Bitcoin. Okay.
At a discount, basically, right?
Well, it would have, I mean, he's buying at 102. So it's not a discount to the market today. He's paying market without moving the market, right? Nobody's seen Michael Saylor move this market. He's really done an excellent job with the algos, and everyone now is using the algos. This is why you're not seeing massive run-ups and run-downs. So I think a 6% retracement is child's play. I'm looking at this going, oh my God, man, this should have corrected 20% already. This should have hit 108 and tested a 20% retracement, and it didn't. It didn't because there's too much buyer. Okay, I know people that are now set up at 98, 97.5, 95. I mean, there's so many freaking bids in the high 90s. And notice how quickly this entire industry has gotten comfortable with, 100,000 is the number, dude. We are so desensitized to this number when for years, it was a pipe dream.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. I mean, that's... I think you already mentioned it, but yes, 100%. I mean, we thought about 1,000 and then 10,000 and 100,000 was like, I always thought, oh, that's when the internet is going to break and melt faces. And I felt less than I would have thought I would have felt when we hit 100K. I mean, I literally woke up at 102K and I was like, oh, wow, okay, we're there. You know, like, yeah, just nothing that I kind of then fantasized about, I think like 10 years ago. But yeah, we're like above 100 steadily. And as you said, you know, the vibe is a bit salty. I think it's in the echo chamber. Yeah. So I'm not sure how to describe that because we have this Wall Street adoption, nation state rumors all over the place. But we do have like a lot of people complain about the purpose of Bitcoin. You know, this is not P2P cash anymore. Saylor changed in talking about it and calls it like digital capital now. Other people say digital money and like the dollar is not money, that's a currency, etc. Like, how can we help people to see like the bigger picture? Sometimes it feels, especially in the echo chamber, like the more information you have, the more you start to doubt your initial thesis and yourself and your due diligence that you did up front, right? And like everything that you see right now in new information might poke a hole in that conviction, basically. So how can we help people to see that bigger picture? Like, what's your way of contextualizing where we are at now, as we just talked about, and how we can look towards the future?
First thing, for me, I don't personally like the chart of Bitcoin. I would prefer to look at the market cap of Bitcoin. And it's a little trick for me because the unit price, it's had such a broad band, right? Like when Bitcoin was worth $600 billion, that would have been about 50% ago. No, that would have been about 60% ago, yeah. Right? Market cap of Bitcoin right now, assuming there's 21 million units, which there isn't. There's only 17. See, I think this thing's priced incorrectly because it assumes there's 21 million units. So every time I look at Bitcoin, it's a little bit like the founders of businesses. I think the early adopters of Bitcoin actually are undervaluing Bitcoin. And the reason they keep using the unit per Bitcoin, but I look at market cap, man. And a $600 billion market cap, when you have Blackstone there, that market only goes one place. It does not go to below 600 million. They don't play in small games.
BlackRock, you mean?
BlackRock, excuse me.
Yeah.
BlackRock or any of these players. Dude, Citibank is not here because this is a $600 billion industry. They're here because it's a $6 trillion industry and it will grow.
Bitcoin custody is evolving, and while self-custody is important, it has its own risks and trade-offs. OnRamp is pioneering a new standard, multi-institution custody, which eliminates single points of failure, adding fault tolerance and redundancy to your custody setup. OnRamp secures your Bitcoin in a segregated cold storage multi-signature vault, guarded by 3 independent institutional-grade custodians, none of which have unilateral control. Your funds are fully auditable on-chain, cannot be rehypothecated, and can only move or withdrawn at your explicit direction. Multi-institution custody removes the technical, mental, and physical burdens of private key management, providing unparalleled peace of mind for you and your loved ones. Bitcoin is money, and as the price continues to appreciate, OnRamp helps you seamlessly tap into financial services like trading, inheritance, insurance, loans, IRAs, and more, all without compromising on security or accessibility. Check out onrampbitcoin.com through the link below and schedule a consultation with the OnRamp team to get to know them and learn more about their offering.
And it will grow. The more every day it grows, like a super athlete at 16 years old, what does a super athlete do? As long as it is fed high protein foods, some fats, goes on exercises, works its way into the market, it becomes more competitive, more of a champion, more anti-fragile. It wins more. And it beats up all the competitors because they're using bad fuel, dude. Literally, you have athletes that are chewing Cheerios, and the Bitcoin community is eating pure, unadulterated nuclear power. Right? It's not eroding over time, and it's not competing with anything. Bitcoin is not competing. This myth of, and you still hear it today. I don't know why the Bitcoin community does this. They do this finite extraction in their mind, even though they came into Bitcoin. It's like, oh, hey, Bitcoin is finite. Therefore, you get the value of infinite. I have something finite, but I have infinite demand for something that's finite. No one's ever seen finite. No one.
Yeah.
First off, like, we don't pitch that enough. Hey, Mr. Wealthy Guy, tell me something that's finite. My boat that I paid $30 million for. Awesome, dude. But there's only one of them and nobody's going to make a currency of it. Yeah. Show me something else that's finite. By the way, I can replicate that boat. For 31 million, I can replicate it. Maybe 27 million, I can replicate it. Market cap of 2 trillion. I can then compare that to, say, NVIDIA, 3 trillion, 3.5. Oh, what's their net asset value? See, I'm starting to ask people really cool questions. Excuse me, what's the net asset value of NVIDIA? They have no assets, dude. Okay, what's the asset value of a healthcare insurance program? Okay, like a bunch of contracts?
This finite part I find interesting. This is how I orange pilled a millionaire guy in upstate New York. We talked about Bitcoin philosophically for like 90 minutes. And then I asked him, do you ever talk to other millionaires? And he's like, yeah, of course. And I said, okay, do you know how many millionaires are in the world? He said, no. I said, 57 million. And there's only 21 million Bitcoin. Or well, effectively, yeah, between 16 and 18. So if you have one Bitcoin and you talk to another millionaire and you say like, hey, nice Porsche, but do you have a Bitcoin? And then the guy says no. And then I said, well, then you can say, do you know how many millionaires there are in the world? And then I saw his eyes. He's like, okay, I need this, you know? And yeah, it's funny that there's an ego argument that's kind of helped him to get there. But this finite scarcity, yeah, is kind of I don't want to say undervalued, but not talked about enough. But it's just a hard thing to conceptualize. Don't you
Well,
think?
because people have never addressed infinite and they've never really addressed finite,
Yeah.
right? They don't really see. I think the way you sold it to the millionaire, this is the way to sell it. Hey, look, there's 2,516 billionaires. There's 406,000 ultra wealthy. The millionaires will be lucky to get any of this.
Yeah.
Okay, because the ultra wealthy, like my brother, like I predicted this extremely well. These billionaires, dude, their first entries are going to be 10, 100, 200 Bitcoin at a time. That will be their first. Once they get in it, you're going to see him. You watch my bro. He is going to get so Bitcoin freaked out. Once you meet convicted people like us, once we understand, it's taken him a little bit longer to come around, but it doesn't matter. When you like, people think Saylor is highly convicted. There's going to be a lot. Saylor, my brother, and I will all get along extremely well. And the reason is he values people that take action. Monster amounts of action. Like he will end up walking away going, whoa, those Cardone bros, when they get in, the amount of action they take without, like, there's no hesitation now. Like, this is why I'm so convicted on this. I've studied it enough correctly to go, oh, wow, this is a no-brainer to put 85% of my net worth in this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's actually stupid. It would be ignorant for me to do anything else based on my knowledge of this field and the old world.
Yeah, I love that, seeing that in your kind of like journey. You know, I think if you go back to maybe, I don't know how long I followed you, I think maybe 2 years or something, but you just see it is this mind virus, right? It's just this understanding that slowly grows, and you talk to people. And as you said, like, it's stupid not to have everything in it. Like, again, not financial advice, but like the hurdle rate is kind of infinite to anything else, right? And I think you've been less attached to the real estate part than your brother, who built his entire career and just his whole following and all these things is around this core thing that he does. So I don't think it's weird that got him later. It's just a certain part, I don't want to say identity, but maybe also your interest and the time you spent on something that you kind of have to shift a little bit, right? Because yeah, it's just a difficult thing to understand. But I find it interesting that you share about it like that, because it slowly just takes you over. And then you just, you have this meme of, the cat with the newspaper, like, I don't have enough, I don't have enough Bitcoin. I think it's eventually that's where you get.
Yeah. And he'll be a good person to watch, because he will be very, I think he'll be a generation of entrepreneurs that you'll see come into this space that finally get it. But, he has to have some pain. Mm-hmm. If you notice, these people that are coming into this, they had some pain. And my pitch to Grant was, hey, look, there is only one way for you to get to 30 or 40 or 50,000 apartment buildings, dude. Like, these other companies are too big for you to just go heads up and try to borrow money the way they're doing it. It's taken him, 30 years to get 15,000 apartment buildings. He's got 42 different funds. And if he wants to get 100 funds, I don't think you can do it the old way. I think you have to do it with something different. And we're getting ready to see. He thinks, look, he wanted to do one of these. I said, bro, you ought to do 10 at one time. 10 $100 million deals.
Yeah.
And that's the right way to do it too. So, he'll talk to a couple of his wealthy friends. He'll send them the charts that I sent him based on real estate versus real estate plus Bitcoin. These charts are so different, bro. It's, one's like this and one's like this. It's just 4 years. I think he's spent enough time in these rooms that, he kept popping in the rooms. I started doing some of this. I think he came into some of these rooms to say, what's Gary doing? Grant really hasn't known what I do for a living, because it's a little bit difficult to, like, I'm not a real estate. I pop around all over the place. I'm in very complicated industries. And he just, he's got his own world. He's seen other people become very, very successful doing other things also, right? Like he's got friends that have become $14 billion. The guy's never done anything in real estate. He's done medical stuff. So I think as Grant and other people mature, people find out, oh, wow, there's a lot of ways people become wealthy, successful, and free. There's not just one way, right? Like I've been a private equity guy my whole life. I go in, I either invest or build companies. I'm poor for 5, 6, 7 years. I'm underpaid. And then knock on wood, hopefully I get an outsized return on an exit, and then I start over. Whereas he is always getting cash flow. He likes that. I don't need cash flow. I don't want any cash flow if I can help it. I don't like income. Income gets taxed. So why would you want income? I just need enough income to allow me to buy some more Bitcoin and cover all my cost of living. But I think now we have, so you're asking me what the turnaround point was. One, you soften them up just like a piece of meat. You soften them up, soften them up, soften them up. Then you see, okay, this person's close. And then you start introducing him to other people. The mistake I think people try to make is that if you would have had the ability, Bram, to, with your Wall Street buddy, to go, hey, Gary, I know you're in New York right now. Why don't you join me for a cup of coffee? To tag team some of these people with another personality. That's why I brought him to Michael. Because I'm like, once he sees Saylor and some other guys, and the 30-year-old Switzerland guy that nobody even remembers his name that was at the house, who's super wealthy, all over Bitcoin. It opens your eyes to, hey, whoa. You walk into somebody's $40 million house, dude, and you can't not like, okay, something's working here.
Yeah, like you got to pay attention. Yeah.
And then he's got a big old fat yacht right out front. I mean, you can't not pay attention to that. Like I'm going to look at, if I was going to be a professional athlete, I would study the greatest athletes in the world, right? It makes total sense. Why wouldn't I study the greatest business guys in the world? So for anybody like my brother or I that want to leapfrog, first off, this is our game, right? This is our sport. People ask me all the time, hey, man, what hobbies do you do? I'm like, I don't need any hobbies, dude. Like, I'm in a constant game condition, learning stuff all the time. This is the game. I just happen to get paid for it, which is pretty awesome. I mean, that's a great life, right? Oh, wow, I get paid really well to do something that I love doing. It's a game for me. I mean, literally, it's a game. It's not work the way other people frame this up, right? I don't think it has to be work. That's the old paradigm.
Well, Bitcoin gets compared to, other store value assets, like traditional assets like real estate that we just mentioned. How do you think this continuous monetization of Bitcoin, like that's the phase that we're in, right? People are pricing this, they're trying to figure this out. You are looking at the market cap that's growing. How will that affect the valuation of other store value assets?
Well, I don't know that, I don't think anything has to suffer for Bitcoin to win. I keep hearing this kind of, what if Bitcoin is so cool that nobody gets hurt? Yeah, it's not a zero-sum game, right? Like when I came in here 4 years ago, I was hearing this, hey, the bond, we're going to suck all the energy from bonds. We're going to suck all the energy from real estate. We're going to suck all the energy from equities. I'm like, what if we're just maxed out on real estate, Rolex watches, villas? I think we discussed this before. What if consumption has hit peak? You have less people on this planet. Okay, we're not having babies like you are. The men today are not as productive as you are. So if the population's going down and the boomers who have all the money, the suits, as you guys call me, my spending is going down, dude. I don't need 37 vehicles. I don't need 42 housekeepers. I don't need more villas and more airplanes and more helicopters. I need some Bitcoin. because I got all that other shit. So what if we just have an allocation from all the distributions from apartment buildings, commercial distributions, private equity distributions, income streams? That money does not get reinvested in the old world. It gets invested in Bitcoin. Now
so it's an addition.
It's accretive to everything. It's literally no one is suffering. I do not believe Bitcoin is unique in that. Look at what Sailor's doing. No one's getting hurt. In fact, everyone that's on the Sailor train, everyone is benefiting. The only person that is not benefiting from Bitcoin or their MicroStrategy trade, if they do it like conservatively and like you're investing in for your business, I don't think these people are, one, going to lose money, and two, their thesis is very, very different than I mean, they're loaded up on other stuff, man. And as long as the banks are benefiting greatly, if you really go through the supply chain, everyone is benefiting from this except the guy that does not get on the Bitcoin train. The only guy that gets hurt in this trade is the guy that's passive, not listening, and doesn't act. That's it. That's a very interesting proposition. I think they'll get hurt in the back end because their asset values will go down compared to Bitcoin. But, that's a market. Not everybody's going to participate.
With what you just said, the people, the person that will suffer will be the person that's not on the Bitcoin train. I mean, if people listen to this, I see the comments, right? That sounds like you're getting me onto the Ponzi, or like that's what a Ponzi guy would say. How do we reply to that? Like, because my next question was about MicroStrategy, like how do we explain what he's doing? And also, I mean, do we have to make people understand? I don't know. That's not necessarily the goal, but it's more like it's just so simplistic to call something a Ponzi or whatever. If you don't understand Bitcoin, I think you cannot really understand what MicroStrategy is doing. But it's so nihilistic, it's not optimistic. And what do you think of that?
Look, I get a lot of grief online, right? Hey, he's a rich guy. I can't even talk to the guy. He's buying 10 Bitcoin at a time. First off, I wouldn't look at it that way. I would look at these units, whether it's 0.1 units or 10 units or 1 unit, they're just units. Let's take real estate, for example. Am I part of a Ponzi scheme? Because 25 years ago, I invested with my brother into Arizona real estate that cost me $35,000 a door. It paid a 10% distribution out. And you weren't invited to the team. You weren't invited to this private offering. I was. I was the only guy who offered it. Is that a Ponzi scheme? It's been going 20 years. I've been borrowing money from banks, giving it to Grant. Grant finds a location. He then pays me distributions, and he's paid it forever and ever and ever. The only thing we disagree on, dude, don't ever sell any of this shit. Don't sell it, keep it. It's going to increase in value. We're going to make distributions. We'll refinance every bit of this property. Never have a dollar in it. Literally, I've been getting $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a month for 10 years. I don't even have any money in these real estate businesses anymore, I don't think. I think Grant sold them all. I'm not even sure I have any principal left in them, but I still have my position, whether it's 3% or 5% or whatever it is. A lot of people are going to go, well, I didn't get on a real estate bandwagon. Right. That's why you're broke, dude. Instead, the wagon you got on was you listened to your mother, your father. Most probably didn't end up great for them. 98% of these people end up broke. They convince you that a house they bought 30 years ago has increased in value. It has increased in value, but not really. And they've also miseducated you that a home was an asset. A home is a liability. And all I have to do is sit down very short period of time with anybody and go, show me all your other investments. Show me your home, show me your real estate, show me whatever you got. And let's see how well you did. And I can compare it up against Bitcoin for the last year, the last 4 years, the last 8 years, the last 12 years. So is it a Ponzi scheme? Is it a Ponzi scheme when Elon Musk is talking about the robot business, that there's going to be 1 to 4 robots in every home? Optimus. If I get on the Optimus bandwagon early on, pay $100,000 for Optimus, and I see the price of the Optimus go down to 10 grand, was I part of a Ponzi scheme? Or was I the first buyer for an innovative cycle? I'm an early entrant, dude. I'm an innovator. I was the guy that bought the first phone. $3,000. I thought I was 007, dude.
Yeah,
I thought
exactly.
It was cool. It was this big. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. But it also brings you something, right? Like, let's say the phone, it brings you connectivity, productivity, whatever. And that concept is so good that it survives. And that's why it becomes more accessible eventually.
Right.
Quick question. If you have your Bitcoin in self-custody, where are you keeping your Bitcoin seed words? For me, there's only one way, and that's backing up my seed phrase with stamp seed. It's a single durable plate without any parts or materials. Stamp your words into solid titanium, which is fire-resistant, water-resistant, and built to last. Unlike etching or engraving, stamp seed's patented tools help you to deeply stamp every letter for permanent readability, making it easy for you to protect your generational wealth. Don't risk losing your seed phrase on paper. Get a stamp seed plate for unmatched protection. You can use code BRAM, that's BRAM, for 15% off at stampseed.com.
And it got better and it got cheaper. Okay. In this case, Bitcoin is getting better and it's getting cheaper. It's getting cheaper relative to the value that it's taking over, dude.
Mm-hmm.
100 grand, when it's in it's hit the main arteries of every freaking economic system in the world. I have bankers calling me today that thought I was an idiot a year ago. I mean, they were like, we can't even bring you to the board. Now they're like, hey, can we bring you to the board? I'm like, fuck off, dude. You're a little late now. Okay. I don't need you. I've 5x my net worth since you started teasing me and not answering the phone. And now you guys are all running around with your heads cut off going, fuck, bro, there is a lot of money being made in this space here. So, I mean, I know a lot of people that didn't invest. I know people that said the internet was going to be bullshit.
I just think it's a pity because it's a fascinating opportunity, and I think
it's not a pity. Okay, it's the evolution of mankind or any organism. People get what they get when they get it, and this is not meant to be demeaning. By the way, I don't like the hey, you get Bitcoin at the price you deserve it. That's a very shaming comment if you listen to it. You know, look, everyone deserves to have Bitcoin. In my opinion, I'm a nice human being, but you're not obligated to do anything. You're not obligated to study finance. I mean, whatever, right? People get to choose whatever they want. I think we're lucky to be in a first world nation where we have access to so much information. There's 4 or 5 billion people that don't have this option. So if you think we're a Ponzi scheme, 4 or 5 billion people haven't even heard of Bitcoin yet. I mean, not really. We have 450 million people that reportedly have touched Bitcoin on planet Earth, of which 247 million are actively engaged at some level. So 250 million people in Bitcoin. And it isn't just the Brams of the world anymore. It's actually people that are well known coming out of the closet going, whoa, this is I've been doing this my whole life. Every time I've walked into one of these disruptive events, I've most certainly been right. I've never missed this ever. Not again, knock on wood. I'm not being arrogant or egotistical. My whole life has been in being disruptive and being in disruptive events. And dude, this is going to fix so many problems. If you look around the United States alone, which is reportedly the freest, most open markets in the world, I'm going to suggest that is an utter fabrication of reality. It is not true. that the United States has become one of the most monopolistic and duopolistic dysfunctioning markets in the world. I think it's the most cartelled market on planet Earth, pretending to be open and transparent. And every industry has literally 2, 3, or 4, and no more major players in it. They control 70, 80%. MasterCard and Visa control 72% of the credit card market.
Whoa.
Okay. We have now industries that are supported by an old political movement who have literally blessed monopolies. There is no competition. If there is competition, you get run off by these mega players, and there's a lot of ways they run you off. But this Bitcoin thing, having the ability to borrow extremely cheap money, dude, we're leveling the playing field now, because not even Visa can borrow cheap money like Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin's truly the greatest collateral in the world, I will borrow money cheaper than any human being on this planet. And I think that's going to give me a tool that massively disrupts the tool the monopoly players have, which is, hey, anytime we don't like something, we just leverage that guy out. Ain't going to happen with Bitcoin. Try to leverage MicroStrategy out. Good luck, Citibank, doing that.
I love this, because I think this is the answer that I also agree with. Like, what is the long-term outlook for this? And it is about not only a redistribution of wealth, but it's also a redistribution of leverage, a redistribution of kind of like values, principles that are like embedded in Bitcoin. And as you said, if you can borrow at the cheapest rate possible, whatever currency, by the way, whether that's US dollar or whatever comes after, I don't really know. That doesn't really matter. I think that's another thing. It's really someone, I don't know who that was, but said like Bitcoin is FU money. I think that's what you're talking about, right? Like you give individuals that have other ideas than the monopoly in a certain industry or the ruler in a certain industry, whatever, and you can actually eventually, over a longer time frame, enable yourself or a group or whatever that comes together under certain values or principles. You can combat that, and you do that from a totally different understanding of value, I think. And that is very appealing to me in the long run. If you think like all the things that you could think about that are wrong in the world or in your country, it's all broken because money is broken and incentives are broken. And I feel like Bitcoin aligns incentives more because there are certain principles and values within this form of money. The whole idea of integrity of the time chain, of keeping the hard supply, of checking that every 10 minutes, like that's just one little example of that. And yeah, so I love that answer that you just gave, because I think that is what we should look at instead of this 6% drawdown and be like, oh my God, what is happening? But yeah, so when we
the 6%, everybody panicking over 6 and 8%. I'm telling you, Wall Street's looking at this going, what's wrong with you guys? They're going to flush all these people out. Like, I guarantee you, if I was at Goldman right now, I'd wipe you guys out. Anybody that's got weak hands, dude, I would smash you out so hard, because I can sense what's happening. If you guys don't think Goldman Sachs and other trading houses aren't listening to these spaces and getting a sense of the sentiment, who's buying Bitcoin from the outside and who's buying it from the inside, dude, this next run is not going to be from the crypto bros.
Yeah, but this is a good point. And I think this is why we should emphasize that studying this thing is very, very, very important. Like, you need to put in the time or you will get shaken out. And yeah, I mean, I also do feel it when I see like a red number, but I also know that nothing changed in my understanding or what Bitcoin is. So that kind of is my anchor to just, zoom out and chill, I always say, right? But it's just, you need to study this thing. This is not an easy, if you get into Bitcoin and you don't understand it enough, and if I know how that sounds, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's true. You will get shaken out. I've had that, I've sold Bitcoin before. And at that point I was happy, and now I have less than I had before. And that's just how it works. So, I mean, that is just part of it.
Look, you don't have to keep repeating that mistake, right? So
no, hell no. No, that's the lesson. Yeah.
right? You have to take a loss and admit it. The young trader that rationalize it, oh, I bought XRP and it's done great, but it's not really done great, and I'm going to hold on to it because I like the team. Sooner or later, you got to look at something and go, hey, I need to move on. This is not working. If Bitcoin wasn't working, I told you the last time we were here, I think it was four months ago, hey, bro, if Bitcoin doesn't start to behave in an exceptional way by November to February, I literally told you this, I'm out. I will review my situation in February and go, Bitcoin's doing something differently. I no longer need that review because it did everything I wanted it to do in October and November. It is behaving perfectly.
Yeah.
Okay. I think to get back to our point, the guy that's going to get hurt, all this money coming in from the outside, it is now merely a question of when they come in, dude. It isn't about what price they come in at. They don't care about the price. This is the difference between the first 15 years of Bitcoin and the next. You guys are sitting there going, hey, I want the price to go to 200. Why? Because you figured out you didn't buy enough Bitcoin, dude, when it was 30. Right? You didn't. And you're like, shit, man, I need a bigger multiple on the return. So you're going to have to stick around for another session because other people are going to get very wealthy here. Right? Other people are going to start doing what I've been doing, which is fucking liquidate everything. Liquidate it all, dude. I want Bitcoin. And that puts me in a monster position, dude. Right? I'm having to work less. When my brother sees how few phone calls he gets from his Bitcoin being battered on a Saturday night by some drunk guys who decide to drive their car into the apartment building, ain't nobody driving their car into my Bitcoin.
I love that you say that. I have a real estate friend who sold everything for Bitcoin, and he has real estate friends that are, when it goes down, he's a sucker. When it goes up, he's the king. But he always tells them, I never get a call about a broken faucet, a fire, a squatter, late payments of the rent or whatever. So he chills. Yeah.
You never call the bank and ask them for permission. You never get the bank calling you 6 years into it going, hey, we know you have 4 years left on this, but you breached a comma in the covenants and we're going to put you out.
Yeah. Interesting. It's just a different type of game, I would say. Yeah. So I mentioned Sailor before. We didn't really answer that, but that was good because later you mentioned, people with Bitcoin can borrow for less. I mean, that's exactly what Sailor is doing. His latest raise was at 0%. Do you think he's going to get paid to take on money later? But also, what is your summary of what he's doing? What this strategy is? I've been asking several people. I have my own idea about it, but I'd love to hear yours.
So first off, he's not the only one doing it. We now have confirmation from Hut, Similar, Riot, Mara. They're all now doing it. So banks are now giving miners low interest or zero cost of capital, 5, 6 year, 3 year convertible notes. That's interesting. This isn't just a micro strategy. Oh, so you guys think the entire model's wrong. You think that Citibank's doing this with other players because it's wrong? I'm actually going to build the case that the miners wouldn't even be around tomorrow morning if they didn't invoke this. There's no way they survive without doing this. And it is only a matter of time before people wake up and go, what the hell is happening here? Why are miners able to attract $100 million in near zero interest cost? If you come to me and you say, hey, Gary, I have a business model. I say, oh, yeah, what's the idea? I'm going to borrow money infinitely, forever, at zero. I'm in. I don't care what you're selling. I don't care what you're making as long as it's legal. I don't care what you're servicing. I don't care if you have what your retention on your clients are. I don't care if you make or don't make money. Zero cost of capital, I'll replace your ass, dude. I'll go run the damn business myself. I can make 10, 15% returns on zero cost of capital all day, every day. Okay, I will borrow money for a century at 2%. A century. I will leverage everything I own, bring it. The only challenge for me ever in any business is raising money. Literally, dude. I could have built the business, that last business I built, it could have been worth $3 billion if I would have had zero cost of capital. I funded it myself, dude. Like literally funded. Here's $1 million, here's $500,000. And then one day I get paid, right? It doesn't need to get cash flows now. It does great. I have a friend that does $70 million a year of EBITDA. Net income. They pay me $3.5 million or so, some crazy number because I put them into this deal. And they tried to sell their company, $70 million dropping down to all the owners every year for 10 years. I've been paid this, okay? Imagine if they could not sell their company. All the Wall Street guys like, we don't like your company. Imagine if they'd have put Bitcoin on the balance sheet. 70 million of EBITDA a year. They could have bought 35 million a year of Bitcoin going back 10 years. Now, that company is going to be driven to put some Bitcoin on the balance sheet. They can only get so big at some point, right? They're going to max out where they can, their margins collapse because they want to get scale. That's the problem with scaling. Your margins always collapse. If they're able to put some Bitcoin on their balance sheet, they don't have to chase volume. Isn't that cool? Because when you look at public companies, everybody's talking about, oh, what's my CAGR go? What's my CAGR? Like well, one day your CAGR is going to run out because there's no such thing as infinite growth. You can't. I mean, Saylor's growing like this. He added 3 employees last year, man. Maybe 10 employees, whatever. Like his revenue is going from $1 billion to 60, and he's not having to add people, buildings, insurance claims, HR, none of that, dude. Not building railroads, doesn't have capital, just sit. He gets capital in, but deploys it the next day. Doesn't sit around decaying. So I think it's a brilliant model. I mean, brilliant. I own quite a bit of MicroStrategy now. I think it's a better strategy than the miners. I always have. Synthetic mining of Bitcoin is far better than what a miner does. And I own some of the miners. And I think the miners will probably do well through the cycle, at least some of them. The only ones that will survive through the cycle will put Bitcoin on their balance sheet. The rest of them are done. So I think you're going to see all the miners do this because you won't survive without it.
Yeah,
Right.
this is what I wanted to say. Maybe not only for miners, but also for the company you mentioned. Like Saylor is, of course, doing an entire type of business model pivot, right? He's becoming a Bitcoin treasury company. My concept of that is that eventually he will become the biggest like Bitcoin bank in the world. I think that's kind of like the end station. But for like other companies to put it on their balance sheet and like it kind of helps them to create a less uncertain future, I'd say. Like it helps them survive towards the future business-wise also, right? Like also for the company that you mentioned, like if you just have a good operating model, you have this profit, you want to keep it like that. So then like this constant strive for growth, etc., that kind of stops. But you just keep chugging along, just executing your business model, but you're securing your future with this Bitcoin on the balance sheet that also in a parallel way helps you to just grow the entire worth of your company. So yeah, I think that's a very interesting idea. And again, to go back to what we just said, yeah, if you don't pay attention, it's going to become difficult for certain companies.
Yeah. One, it's already getting hard for people because of inflation, because of wokeness, because of regulatory pressures from, and I think that's worth really mentioning is when you look at Bitcoin, I think it's fair to say that Bitcoin has been under great suppression for 15 years. It most certainly has not been supported internally or externally. I would say the crypto bros have actually done as much harm as they have good in promoting the idea of Bitcoin. I don't mean to, look, we've done a great job to get here, but we didn't get here perfectly, right? Like we've made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah. I like to think the path is the path. It's just.
Oh yeah, but like, see, I look at it and go, let's assume that we didn't get here in the most optimal way, which I think like we were suboptimal. Mm-hmm. We still got to $1 trillion. That staggered me. Okay, I'm looking and going, wow, you guys got here. You got to 1 trillion. See, I don't like the price of Bitcoin, 100, but I love the price of Bitcoin at $2 trillion. $2 trillion market cap. I'm like, whoa, the bond market is 300. 300 trillion. I mean, come on, man. This market can't get smaller than this. And it's 15, 16 years old now. We are mature. If this was a champion 16-year-old coming out of Florida State or Crimson or the Navy, he would have 37 NFL 4-year contracts right now. Okay, this cat would be the most sought after athlete on planet Earth. He has been accepted into every country club on the planet. He has had every player try to fuck him up, from even some of his competitors like Sam Bankman-Fried, who tried to destroy the whole market. This individual athlete has weathered the storm of Elizabeth Warren, Gary Gensler, Mount Mox or Vox or Dox. Who cares?
Cox. Yeah, it doesn't matter anymore. Yeah.
Every attack has been made. You have Roger Ver and Billy Bob all disagreeing with what real money is. I mean, it's been a freaking circus. And just 2 days ago, BlackRock put out its first 3-minute advertisement for Bitcoin, which, by the way, is pure genius. So simple. We never had that before, dude. And we're at $2 trillion, assuming there really are 21 million Bitcoin, which I don't think there are. I think there's 17 million, and that means that the market cap is about 1.5. I think that's wrong. And markets are rarely right, by the way. This bullshit about markets being right, that's a lie. Markets are grossly inefficient. Grossly inefficient. They're always priced incorrectly, in my opinion.
My TLDR from that is we are still early in that sense, but big enough. Like there's the how do you say that? Like the stake is in the ground and it's here, and it can only grow from here. But like how are you looking at seeing that happen? For example, strategic Bitcoin reserve. Do you have any ideas about that? But also, just the entirety of next year. What are you expecting?
I think in the first 100 days we're going to have a. Well, first I need 1 month. I need to ensure that we actually have a January 20th inauguration. So I think this thing's gotten so messed up politically and globally that I still consider that to be risk. I know that sounds crazy to a lot of people, but until I see a January 20th inauguration and we're safe from whoever these creatures are that are running this country. I mean, we have a lot of behavior going on right now in the last 30 days of the old administration that looks really naughty. It looks just disgusting. Okay, why would Congress get a fucking salary raise from $174,000 a year to $242,000? That happened 2 days ago.
I missed that, but wow.
1,500-page treasury note. I mean, it's disgusting, man. Okay, no merits. These people have destroyed this country, and they're getting paid 70. if you're not getting paid $242,000, you guys should start like writing letters to every senator, mayor, congressman, everybody. You know, that's ridiculous. Okay. I'll go to work for Donald Trump and not charge a penny. No, I won't. In fact, you don't even need to pay me my Medicare, my Social Security. I don't care. I don't need it. And I'll help. But this is outrageous that Congress would be paid $242,000 when rarely have they ever done anything. And if they're going to get paid that much money, hell, let's pay them on the increase in GDP for their state or their country. Let's give them a piece of the commission now. No salaries. Get a commission for improving the economics of your area. Do an audit. You know, like I just presented an idea to the government. I said, hey, why don't you just flip a coin in half the contracts that you've signed? All those guys that end up on tails, you just abrogate the contract.
But that's what Vivek says, right? Like if your name ends in a C F whatever, like that's just how he's going to go through it. Yeah.
He got that idea from me. Funny enough, I told him about a McKinsey study on the Social Security flipping the coin. But my point is, he loves the idea on employees because it stops any discriminatory pressure. Right? You can't say, hey, you're discriminating against me because I'm woke. Do it to companies. Just issue a statement on January 20th. Hey, for the last 15 years, we do not think the government has done a great job of contracting. And this is the age of transparency. The employees are going through the coin toss. Also, this is to make America great again. And if you fight us, we'll just list your name down in front of 250 million Americans. Hey, this company, Corning, is suing the United States government because they want that 10-year contract that's so out of the market. It's ridiculous, has no competition, hasn't been reviewed in months, years. Like, just flip the coin. Everybody gets to retrade the deal. They've done this before in energy. People say this is not possible. When you're the federal government, you can just go, hey, we are resetting. And the first reset we're going to do is we're going to review every contract the U.S. government has entered into, private, public, or otherwise. If you're a vendor, jump ball, dude. We have to review our expenses now. If I was a vendor to the United States government, raise my hand. Yes, sir. I'll be the first to negotiate. No problem. They can't pay, dude. You can't keep paying Boeing when the United States government is broke if they're not doing their job, right? So I'm not saying bankrupt anybody. Let's all have a refresh moment. Now, the beauty of this...
Sounds very American to me. Just the real market, don't you think? Yeah.
Flip the coin. And the guys that win the coin toss, the message to them is, hey, all you guys that got tails, your contracts will not be funded January the 21st. You can keep delivering services, but we're going to withhold payment until we can get an understanding of this is a competitive contract and we need it. The other people that won the heads, negotiations start today. So you set this game theory up and they go, ooh, do I want to actually say, hey, I'm not doing that? If you get heads, you get to report to Wall Street, okay, we're in negotiations immediately. All the companies that serve America, nobody's going to get hurt in the stock market because everyone's being treated the same. Now it's who got the renewed contract, who didn't, and what are the terms. And they'll be upset about this, but why would we want the government to enjoy the benefits of something at the expense of the user, the taxpayer, when the big companies, really the shareholders of that big company are the only ones benefiting?
Yeah, of course.
Long term, it's not going to work for them anyway. As soon as these contracts roll over, they're not getting renewed.
Mm-hmm.
So why wouldn't you want to just go, we're broke, let's reset? We haven't done this in 50 years yet. We did this in the 80s, okay, under Reagan.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a very rational idea.
If you don't do this, there's going to be death and mayhem across a number of sectors. You can't stop it because you cannot broke everyone. I mean, at some point, it just breaks, man. We're becoming very rigid at this point. Rigid is not good when there's a storm.
It's kind of like it's not creative destruction, but it also is in some way. It's kind of like you force instead of having a huge implosion, you're kind of like doing like a controlled demolition in a sense, in a way that is the most fair, just in a random way, but you just force transparency. Yeah, again, that sounds really American American to me. It makes a lot of sense. But let's say we get to the inauguration day. I hope so. Yeah, what do you think about this this Bitcoin reserve?
I think it is 90-10. I think this happens so naturally now. It's going to become very obvious now that anyone blocking Bitcoin is a ding dong. Their IQ is low, or they're some kind of criminal. And again, this is all around these contracts. Bitcoin and Michael Saylor, this is what I really admire about Saylor, okay? Every step he's taking so far, in my opinion, has been very consistent with the core principles of Bitcoin. You can argue about self-custody. You guys are being fucking too hard on this cat, dude. Like, no corporation is going to self-custody billions and billions and billions of dollars of Bitcoin. That is not going to happen. You're just naive as to the way the world works, okay? It's just not real. Happy to have a discussion with you. I'm not trying to make you wrong, but it's just ignorant and naive to think that a corporation is going to leave one person with the keys, okay? I'm not investing in MicroStrategy if you do that, or any other company. I want there to be risk management procedures in place. But everything he is doing, including transmitting with no obligations whatsoever. He is not required to do what he's doing. Monday mornings, we bought 9 billion more. Thank you very much. Hey, we're doing this. We're doing that. If every public company, and every public company will be required to do this, you watch, who was it? Was it Ripple? Ripple, to do an interview with Ripple, you have to sign all these contracts. It's highly controlled discussion. We just had a president win the election by going on social media, talking to people for an hour and 2 hours, unscripted. Yep. The future of public companies will not be doing this in an opaque, non-transparent, oblique way that, like, literally nobody can understand what the fuck they're saying on the quarterly earnings. Every month. If you're not willing to come up here, dude, I have businesses. Come ask me questions about it. No problem. I think this changes everything, dude. Quarterly earnings is going to eventually go away, or companies that are public will eventually go away, because you cannot build a company on quarterly earnings properly. It is ridiculous to try to hit quarterly earnings constantly going up every 90 days. Nobody ever asked, hey, what did that cost me long term? If I would have settled in and just like not made any money for 9 months, what would have happened in my business in a year? Would I have been better instead of going to all these meetings, trying to reanalyze, to give a presentation to Wall Street, spend all my time prepping Wall Street instead of trying to build a business? I see Saylor doing none of that, dude. His bankers walking up to his front door, giving him as much cash as he could, and he's transmitting to the entire world, including his competitors, which what's he doing? He is avoiding all competition issues. There's not going to be a DOJ or an antitrust issue. He's going to be like, bro,
I told everyone.
Hey,
yeah.
In fact, I'll give you my playbook. Here you go.
Yeah. I like that, because for me, like, the underlying kind of like principle or value that I see there is that Bitcoin is not a zero-sum game, the zero-sum game that we mentioned before. It is a mutually beneficial game. So I think it's good that you called it out. I raised my eyes when you said 90-10 on the strategic Bitcoin reserve. I mean, let's see how that's going to go. I think that's very interesting also, just global game theory wise, to see where that's going to go. But yeah, good, I think, to call Saylor out in that sense.
If I may, on the 90-10, this is my reasoning for it. I was in disagreement at the Bitcoin conference with Loomis and the Gemini boys and all the miners. We were at a little private round table with a bunch of senators, not a bunch. There was no more than 25 people in this room. Senators, congressmen, Cantor Fitzgerald, all the miners, the Coinbases of the world. And the first request that Trump made was, hey, what do you guys want us to do? And the first statement was, hey, do not sell the 200,000 Bitcoin. Now, for me, I would have stopped there. Loomis, who is just, I have so much respect for her. I totally disagreed with her when they did it. I'm like, hey, you don't want to announce that we're going to put this stuff on the on the Federal Reserve, right? On the balance sheet. Like, why would you want to do that? It's going to alert everyone. One, we did it. He came out and said, we're going to keep the 200. I thought, hey, as long as you keep the 200, you're effectively going into this. Like, that's an easy sell. Step 2 is put it on your balance sheet is an easy sell. Loomis and others forced the hand, had him go public. I don't really care if the Federal Reserve, if the government does it or not. It's too late now. They talked about it. Game theory is on now.
Yeah.
Fuse has been lit. There is no way China doesn't wake up and go, well, we can't not do this. In fact, we can't not do it right this second. Russia will do the same. And every other country that's got any kind of economic brightness or willing to accept a phone call from a guy like you or me or Dennis Porter or whoever, like, I probably could start a business just going to pitch sovereigns. So this is game over now, dude. This makes total sense. And there is no way that Trump's going to get not talked into. This is a game changer for him. He is literally he could revolutionize the entire global economic market, dude. You think he's an ego freak? Cool, man. He's going to love this.
That's a great appeal. Yeah, I agree. I 100% agree.
This is a legacy. Like, who cares about his wealth? They're already going to be super rich. Who cares? His legacy, though, to be able to transform global economy. Now, that's a goal, bro. And look, we have the team that's interested. They're listening to people like me, dude. No one's ever called me from the U.S. government and said, hey, what do you think? Give me an idea. Give me some introductions to people that are great. They're accepting ideas that are fucking off the chain, dude. I mean, like, it is so impressive. I don't know corporations that would think this brazenly. Okay, like, they are out the freaking, anything is on the table. I get really positive about America when I see that. If this was just Trump and not Elon and not how David Sachs and all these people come together, dude, this dream team, man. I don't know anyone that would not work with these people. Not one person. Yeah. I mean, I was speaking to Ramaswamy the other day. He's like, we have at least 1,200 resumes from people like you, me. Like they're like, dude, it's just unbelievable how many people want to work here. Now, I'm not one of them. I think I can do more damage from the outside than the inside. And we're not even talking about those guys yet. You know how many guys like me is going to be doing this from the outside for free? Right? There will be, if there's 1,000 people inside the administration, there's going to be 1,000 people outside the administration. And we're not the least talented people on the planet. See, I think that's the piece that people aren't looking at. Hey, what's this ball team look like? It looks like a super team. Like, would you want to compete with these people? I don't think so. What are they going to throw at us? AOC? Elizabeth Warren? These are not people with IQs, man. You've been in these rooms, dude. The Bitcoin people are some of the smartest people I've ever met in my life.
I think they're definitely the most curious and reflective ones, and I think that helps in execution eventually, right?
Well, I think also they have studied the other markets better than people who've gotten very comfortable. Like in order to really understand Bitcoin and defend these arguments, you have to understand how everything else works around it. And the more you do, the more you realize, oh my God, man, there is so much inefficiency in the way we do things. And people hear that as a big negative, like, oh, you guys were losers in the 20th century. No, you were doing the best job you could with the tools you had at the time. The problem is the regulatory process has allowed those tools to allow the whole market to be very, very opaque, yet public. So why can't you go into Visa, MasterCard and look at how much money they make in certain divisions if they're public? Okay, like there's no transparency. And this is the thing, Bitcoin, that transparency word is going to be very problematic for Wall Street players who've been playing the old hide the weenie in the hot dog bun, right? Trust us. In all these terms, Graham. I mean, when I say I think Wall Street's getting ready to be disrupted, net asset value, this conversation that's going around, I'm like, wow, there is no Wall Street one definition of net asset value. What is it? What's the net asset value of IBM or Visa? What assets do they have? Oh, monopoly.
Yeah, that's the honest answer. That's a very good point. That's a good point. Yeah. But nobody tells you that. Yeah. I love that. I love that again, this transparency is like a Bitcoin principle. Like it'll bring it out, right? That's also why I am not that, I am disappointed in some way that the finance bros figured Bitcoin out, but in the other way, I still see it as a Trojan horse. Like you adopt it out of greed. And then at one point, you will be called upon the door of transparency, and then like you have to commit, you're forced to be transparent eventually, but that doesn't happen overnight, and it is a big fight.
Okay. It is happening overnight. Dude, 15 years is overnight. It took Visa, MasterCard 52 years to get all these credit cards in your pocket. 52 years, bro. Think about how long ExxonMobil's been around. Think about Standard Oil, who created the energy markets in the late 1800s, early 1900s. It's 120 years, man. And now the energy business, Bitcoin is literally moving into the energy business, and people are starting to look at even the energy sector as grossly inefficient. Which I know it. People go, whoa, this cat is just so bullish. If people hang out and they actually think about what's happening and you really go through every one of these industries, it is remarkable how Bitcoin's role is going to influence almost everything. It is going to be the barometer by which all things are judged. We've never had that measurement stick. Never.
Yeah, I love that. Thanks so much for these insights. I think they are really unique, and I think it makes me very enthusiastic to see what's going to happen. Of course, I look at it from the other side of the ocean, but I think like 2-3 weeks ago, I had the thought like, should I move to America now? Like I see all this stuff, like certain way of thinking that I really align with, and I see that we mentioned.
Do you live right now?
In Western Europe.
A friend of mine from England, who I've known since he was 7 years old, and he worked for me for the last 10 years. He has 2 children. He's your age. His wife died unexpectedly. I mean, babies did. 2 years old and 6 months old. He's lived in America before. He's in London. I said, bro, I know his boss. I said, bro, I would call your boss. It's now been a year that your wife died. Get the fuck out of London. Come America, get the visa going. We are going to be a monster market here, dude. I am convinced that Europe is going to fall. I don't know how you guys fix this, dude. It's too big to fix. You have no resources. You have no way to print money, really. You have 13 countries all really are competing with each other now. They have no resources. They're broke. Most expensive energy prices in the free world. You're piggy in the middle. NATO's the only thing holding anything together, and they are bastards. They are part of the problem. I don't know how Europe doesn't fall completely apart, which is now my thesis for, oh shit, this could really get bad next year. Because if the banks imagine if Deutsche Bank went under and UBS went under, dude, that pulls the entire financial system into the abyss of nothing. Right? And I don't see how it gets out of this. You can't produce anything. You can't produce your way out of it. Your interest rates are like 2.2. Ours are 4.4. The arbitrage, people are going to start borrowing money in Germany and investing in Bitcoin in the United States. It's going to be the euro yen trade, right? The what do they call it? The carry trade.
Yeah.
The spreads are too big. Yet Bitcoin's the same price in Germany in US dollars as it is in America, right? Now, relative to other currencies, it's like every day it gets more expensive for anyone that's trading in other currencies. So we have a lot to work through there, and Trump can't fix that. The globalists, the size of our team here is awesome because maybe we can, clean the house, but you can't possibly clean the house in Europe, right? And your team, they could bring in Nigel, they could bring in a couple of other guys in Europe, but you still don't have a real team. You need a team like 37-year-olds like you. And you're not going to have 1,500 people trying to work for the euro. Who is it?
That's very true. That's very true.
No way, dude.
Yeah. No, that's very true. Yeah, that's not a great outlook, and I reluctantly agree with you. I think
people will love you in America, dude. Like why would you want to fight it? Like if you were they will embrace the shit out of you, dude. Americans are. I lived in England for 10 years. Almost every week, people would be like, "Hey, when you going back? Hey, when you going back to America?" I would come back to America. I'd go to California. Hey, Gary, when you coming? When you coming home? So Americans are like, come on in, dude, come on in. The Europeans are like, can you please wait as soon as possible? We like your money, but we don't like you living here, right? You fucking shit up.
Yeah.
Come on in, dude. You'll make more money. Your career will your career will explode, dude. Because there's no resistance here. We don't smash success.
Yeah. Well, we have an agreement, right? Next time when the party is there, I am coming over to Florida. So we're definitely going to do that. I was looking at the time. I want to ask you a last question. And of course, I ask everyone the same question. What is a core belief you will never let go? But I asked you last time already. So now...
what was my answer?
Oh, dude, yeah, I don't know. I've heard so many answers to that. Did it change? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you... And I wonder if this is going to be a positive or a negative answer. So it's a fun question. What is a spiky point of view that you have on Bitcoin that not many people share with you?
I think self-custody is overrated. That'll freak people out, right?
Okay, we'll stop the conversation there.
Yeah, well, and look, I mean, I just think once the ETFs, I think self-custody is important. And it's a monster feature of Bitcoin, but I'm not going to ever self-custody all my Bitcoin. I have too much Bitcoin to self.
Yeah, I feel there's a diversification in how you store it. Yeah,
I just think the story on the self-custody, because of the ETFs, that's probably the biggest loser. But it was the only way we were going to get adoption, and so it's not even a negative. I'm not really disagreeing with anyone. For us to get adoption is more senior than how people put Bitcoin in their self-custody, in my opinion, because it's an evolution for me. I think you're going to have people come in here like me and go, I'm not comfortable with self-custody until I'm around a little bit longer. And then I start going, oh, I got it now. So, I would not shame anyone for coming in however they come in and however they choose to participate. It's good, dude. They're in.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. Well, thanks again so much for your time. Enjoyed this conversation. I appreciate you.
New Year, man.
Thanks, man. You too. Cheers.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, you can click here to find more just like it, and click here to find all Bitcoin for Millennials podcast episodes. Also, please like this video if you want to help shine a light on the message of Bitcoin, and subscribe to my channel to stay connected. I hope to see you for the next episode. Bye.